And for more on this, we're now joined by independent political analyst, Dr. Dale McKinley, and he joins us now via our video link. Dr. Dale, thank you so much for your time this evening here in SABC News.
Thanks,
let's start off here. What is your take when it comes to the interventions being made here by the Home Affairs Department to ensure that services are brought to people, especially those who have been hit by natural disasters?
Well, it's a good start to the minister's tenure for sure. It's been quite a while. I can't remember the last time when previous Minister Motsoaledi was actually out in the field delivering home affairs services. So the test is going to be whether or not this is rolled out in many, many other areas. There are hundreds of thousands of people who are having documentation problems, South Africans who have been waiting years, both old, young, and otherwise. And then now, of course, in the Western Cape, we've seen the floods, and I'm sure there's many, many people there that have lost documents. And so the question is going to be whether or not this can be sustained, because it's a nice PR exercise. It looks good. We have to commend that. But the problems in home affairs are very, very deep. So this will be, as I said, a good start. But we're going to have to wait and see whether the minister is able to do a lot of the things he says he wants to do, given the track record over the last many years of the many, many different problems which we can talk about in home affairs.
And would you say, this kind of speedily service delivery is what many South Africans have been yearning for a couple of years now?
Absolutely. Home affairs is one of those departments where when you say this to most South Africans, they just roll their eyes and go, well, we hope we get service. We hope we can get what we need, whether that's documentation, whether that's IDs, whether that's passports, whether that's in the case of work visas, asylum seekers, of course, migrants. This is one of the first things that the minister did, which was also a good move, was to extend the waiver for people whose visas had expired, because there was a massive, not just immigrants that are from other African countries, but many skilled immigrants whose visas had expired and work visas were not being renewed. And there's a lot of things there. For example, let's just mention a few of the big, deep problems, which are much of home affairs has a huge corruption and criminal syndicate problem. The issuing of documents has become a money maker for many in home affairs. It was recognized by Minister Motsoaledi, but very little was done to address it. This is the big elephant in the room, so to speak, because not much is going to move unless that is tackled. The digitalization of the system, getting off of paper-based, getting online services. This is a huge, huge challenge, getting the IT systems correct, which usually are down most of the time. This is another major, major issue. So those would be two. There are many others, but if the minister can take the good start that he's made and continue it, then I think most South Africans will welcome the moves and will support him.
How important are such centres, especially for places like this that was struck by natural disasters, where people don't even have the money to visit a Home Affairs department to ensure that they have those necessary documents to actually bring the service to people who really need it?
It's hugely important. We have we have a lot of different forms of apartheid in our country, not racial apartheid, but we have digital apartheid. We have access apartheid, in the sense of people in rural areas and small towns simply do not, many have had to travel hundreds of kilometers to get documents, to visit, with very few resources. So mobile, just like in the health system, which needs to be rolled out, mobile clinics, in this case mobile home affairs vans that are able to service people, need to be deployed around the country. So it's not just in disaster areas, it's in rural areas where people need these services. And this is going to be a very big challenge for the new minister in the Home Affairs, because I think what has happened is a culture has taken root in Home Affairs, which is basically we do the most minimum that we can do, and we basically got away with it. In fact, he's going to have to change the work culture of some, and there are many good people that are in Home Affairs. I think it's getting the bad apples out and changing changing the system to make sure that it works for everyone, not just those who have access and those who have money.
And Dr. Dale, I mean, a bit earlier on, you were touching on the fact that, it looks like good PR to see the minister there and, giving out the service to those who really need it. When it comes to keeping up this service, do you think that the department has the capabilities of ensuring that it can actually bring the service to those areas that actually need it?
Absolutely. Look, there's always going to be the argument that they need, that all departments are making, that they need to be better resourced. But Home Affairs has been wasting a lot of the resources that they've had. There's been massive. So, for example, let's just take the legal cases that ex-Minister Motsoaledi fought over the last 10 years. They resulted in hundreds of millions of rand in legal fees. Most of those cases were lost. If things are improved, much of that money can then be redirected towards service delivery, towards actually rolling these things out, to making Home Affairs places where people would like to go, where there's not long queues, where you don't wait an entire day and have to come back the next, where you don't waste your hard-earned money to travel in many cases long distances to not get served. So yes, I think it's about that's very, very possible. It's a question of turning that ship around. It's not going to be an easy job for the new minister or for those who have been working and trying to do a good job in the Home Affairs ministry as well. But it's one worth, I think, that most South Africans, as I said, will very much get behind if they feel as though the minister is trying to do the right thing and break through those barriers, and particularly to tackle the criminal syndicates that are oftentimes making Home Affairs services basically meaningless for most people.
And would you say that, South Africans are beginning to somewhat benefit from this GNU we find ourselves under, where some ministers are actually pressured to be seen as if they're actually doing a good job?
I think it's a good thing that we don't have the expectation, well, it's the same old story, that we can't really push a party, in this case the ANC, for 30 years that was basically so dominant that it didn't have to really pay that much of attention. It became very arrogant and very, I think, lazy in office in many cases because it was there. So it's not to say that the GNU is going to be automatically good. There are huge, huge problems, but I think the opportunities are there. And I think what the public is expecting now, that we've got this GNU with many different parties in it, and people are going to have to perform, or at least going to have to improve things. Otherwise, they're either going to get the chop, or their party and their politics and their promises are going to get very heavily punished. We remember we've got local government elections coming up not too far from now. So it's a good thing, it's a healthy thing for our democracy when there's civic pressure, when people have expectations, and when the politicians feel the heat. The more heat that these GNU politicians feel, whatever party they're from, the better it is for the citizenry of our country.
All right. Dr. Dale, thank you so much for your time this evening. That's Dr. Dale McKinley, independent political economist, giving us his insight there in terms of what the Home Affairs Minister and the Deputy Home Affairs Minister are doing to ensure that they bring the services directly to the people.